Hi, I'm Cheryl Coughlan. I'm the Executive Director of the Josephy Center for Arts and Culture in Joseph, Oregon. And we're here with Gianluca Giarrizzo, and we are going to talk about his new exhibit here that starts July 7th and talk about a little bit of his work. And here's Gianluca. And Gianluca, I wanted to ask a couple of questions about your exhibit here. How did you learn about the Josephy Center?
So I learned about the Josephy Center about 4 years ago when I was working at the Lost Teen Tavern in Lost Teen, Oregon, and would come by occasionally to see the work, and I heard great things constantly when I was here.
Okay. So what were you doing at the LT, or the Lost Teen Tavern, as most people know about it? What was your whole thing that you had going on there?
Yeah, so it kind of happened randomly. The owner, Peter Frey, needed extra bartenders, and I had the summer off to do some, hopefully do my own work, and he was able to offer a studio space while at the same time I bartended. So it was kind of a funny bartend, run up, paint, bartend, paint. It was a good time.
Okay, so a lot of your work are drawings and a lot of it is sculptures. So are you making drawings of every sculpture you make? Is it all kind of a process that you go through to create things, or how does that go about?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
So a lot of the drawings that are never really seen are in the sketchbook, and for that, that's where gesture and kind of more of the form idea of a sculpture comes about. But in a general, drawing is just the observational process. It's learning the subtleties of form, the subtleties of beauty, and using drawing to learn about anatomy, and so that when you head into a sculpture, it becomes a little more instinctive to be able to search through the material in a more comfortable way.
So it looks like a lot of your, like take for instance this drawing here, getting the correct anatomy is really important. Are you using live models, or are you setting up something to make it so that you can draw it? How are you doing it?
Yeah, great question. Both. Ideally live models. Most of these are from life at some point. I have tons of anatomy books that I pull from to kind of piece things together, especially for sculpture. And yeah, most of these are from life as far as I can go, and then sometimes I photograph the situation to then carry it back into my studio and finish it out. But as much as I can do from life on the spot is ideal.
Do you find that the reason that you're using the live model is that you're getting a little bit more of the three-dimensional quality to it?
Yeah, I think from life is just, there's a more visceral experience too. You're with that person, you kind of feel their personality more directly, you feel their form, and because sculpture is kind of my ultimate, goal essentially. When I use mainly line in my drawings as well to kind of feel the form and just kind of use it as that learning experience. But from life, there is that three-dimensional quality, so then it carries into the drawing a little bit more substantially, I feel like.
So one of the main things that really caught me with your work is that you're very young. You're 26. Is that correct? I'm sorry you did not put that in any of your information, I am now divulging your age, which is not probably very proper, but I think that this is very accomplished. So how long have you been drawing? I mean, if somebody were to say, hey, I want to learn to draw this anatomically correct thing.
Sure.
Some people think, oh, I could do that in a heartbeat, but it really takes a lot of practice.
Right, definitely.
So when did you kind of start that process of really being attached to the real figure, the anatomically correct figure? Yeah,
that's what goes back to when I was really young. Drawing was just kind of part of my childhood. My father's a painter, my mom's a museum curator, and so aesthetics and drawing was kind of just part of it. I didn't really think people didn't, which was kind of funny. But as I got older, I became more interested in kind of making things better, getting more skillful. I loved playing sports growing up, and so I felt like the discipline of anatomy felt similar to like the work ethic of athletics and stuff like that. But when I really got caught up with anatomy and figurative work was when I studied in Rome. And for me, that was that moment where everything just felt like your breath was taken away. And I love that feeling of feeling just captivated and amazed. And I feel like so much art nowadays requires an art degree to understand. And I love that no matter who I was with in Italy, they also felt similar to how I felt. And even though I was in art, they weren't. We were sharing an experience there. I thought that was amazing. And so that's pretty much when I got hooked on it. And you spend a lifetime learning how to refine it. And each time you see something, you feel differently about what makes it beautiful. And that experience and that kind of learning process, I can't. That's what I look forward to continuing.
Okay. Oh, so like this one I really like because it's got this tension here. It almost looks like he's going to fall over. How did you balance this so that it's actually not teetering over?
Right. No, I actually, this has been displayed at a show in Portland, and I didn't sleep for a few days because I was pretty convinced it was just going to fall. But it's been a couple years and it hasn't, so that's good. This was actually the sculpture that kind of started. It's titled In Descent. And it kind of started that idea of off balance, but like not like some sort of stumbly, confused off balance, but kind of a graceful off balance. Mm-hmm. I really like tension. Mm-hmm. I like when the borders are broken. I like when things are off centered. Mm-hmm. And for sculpture, you can play around with weight and that idea of falling, but stability at the same time. I just like contrast in that way.
Right.
But yeah, this one just took a drill to the bottom and had to kind of work on that angle and try to find that place where it wasn't actually falling but was close.
Cool. Now, this is a bronze piece, is that right?
Yeah, so this was actually carved from a block of wax. Typically bronze is from clay through the process. And this was just from a block of wax, really trying to understand the reductive process. Mm-hmm. And so this just a cube of wax, carved it out, and then cast it straight into bronze. So it's actually solid bronze. It's typically hollow, but this one's solid.
So when you do these bronzes, are you doing an addition so that you can?
That's a good question. So this actually doesn't have an addition because it was just wax. So no mold was taken.
Oh, okay.
It went straight into the plaster sand mix and burned out and then filled with bronze. But a couple of the sculptures here are hollow with molds that you can do castings of.
Okay. All right. So let's go over here. So these are that same bronze.
Yeah, same deal. Carved from wax. Same pour, same process.
I really like is it the patina that's on this? It looks like almost like a gold.
Yeah, what's funny is those two actually don't have patinas, so that's pure bronze, which is I think kind of almost rare knowledge that bronze is pretty gold. And then when you patina it, this is kind of what you get after you add kind of it's like a liver sulfur patina kind of thing, and then you sand it down to kind of bring out some of the highlights.
Okay. So will this change over time, the color?
Bronze just kind of does in its own thing. Yeah, people might touch the sculptures. The different things kind of just add different natural patinas in that way too.
Okay. It's technically really more of like a mixed media, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And this is, I'm not trying to be too in depth with this or anything like that. I mean, it was mostly about capturing the portrait. But at this time, I wasn't able to do any stone work because of the studio I had. It wasn't really conducive. And so I just had to play around with the way to make a drawing seem more high stakes. And adding some, it's called luce sprezza, which is thick light in Italian.
Okay.
So just a way to add a more contrasting bright light source.
So you did the bronze, and then we've got 3, maybe 4 pieces here that are stone carving. So can you talk a little bit about, it looks really like you had a rock and it just kind of emerged out of the rock.
That's it, yeah. I just started, this is the stone's called alabaster, and you see the rough size of the stone, and that's it. You take a chisel. I took a chisel and a hammer. I try to stay away from power tools. I like feeling the work. I like it being like the hands-on thing. Chisel, hammer, and you just start going. The idea is that he's trying to kind of push the stone off of him, and it is kind of there's supposed to be that kind of movement within it.
Okay.
But yeah, the process is simply just chisel, hammer. You just go searching.
So it's amazing how you got it just like the pure rock here, but then you really What are you doing? Sanding it down?
Yeah, you use some fine-tuned sanding at the end, but everything should pretty much be in place at that point. It's technically a high relief, which means like the front is very exposed, but the back is still the material or the raw material. And I just like when people can see the process. Part of it has to do with my passion for education as well. I think it's fun for people to see how it was done, see the possibility of it, that kind of thing.
So, and I noticed that all of your pedestals, they look almost like they're concrete blocks. Did you make
They
these
are.
yourself?
Yeah, I made all of these myself with you create the mold and then pour the concrete in, and it's just a nice way, or I at least think it's a nice way to contrast almost the materials in a way, because concrete, obviously this is a more traditional stone carving material, and concrete's a more modern material, so it's a subtle way to just add two materials from different time frames, and it also hopefully doesn't distract from the sculpture.
So your pricing on this is $3,800. I'm assuming this takes you hours and hours and hours. I mean,
Definitely.
a lot longer than the bronze.
Definitely,
and,
yeah.
And the drawings themselves.
Definitely,
correct?
yeah. All of that knowledge comes into this, and this is where the majority of time would go.
Just kind of carved her out.
Yep.
Like she was in there before.
Yeah, they're always in there before we start.
Now, did you do preliminary drawings for?
Definitely, yeah, gesture drawings. This was actually the only thing I've ever carved in wood, and so
really?
it was kind of fun to just explore. In some ways, it wasn't. I would say more challenging than stone, because stone just has it's such a hard material that it's difficult. But wood splinters. This wood in particular splinters a lot, so you have to move with the way it moves.
Okay.
But yeah, I definitely did drawings of it. The idea is that she's kind of breathing in and kind of extending up slightly, and it's kind of just in some ways just kind of a challenge to find that gesture at times. Yeah.
All right, so we'll move over here without. Okay, so these are the paintings that Gianluca did. What's the history behind this? Because these are very different than your drawings. And your
Definitely. I mean,
sculptures.
I'm not by no means considered a painter. I almost think of paintings being more like extensions of a drawing. And
Right.
it's a fun way to go big with a looser approach.
Right.
I like to try to find areas of it that are more rendered, but I like leaving the brushstrokes again, just process over finish in that way. They came about, this one was actually one of the first ones, again through the Lost Teen Tavern.
Okay.
I was commissioned to do 3 large paintings from photos of kind of back in the day, Wallowa County.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where this palette came out of, kind of thinking about colors that would seem bright and modern, but kind of old-timey.
Okay.
But I ended up sticking with it because it kind of allowed for form and felt a little bit more like a drawing at the same time.
Yeah, I do like the earth tones that you used, and I like how, in a lot of ways, the detail isn't quite brought out, but there's hints of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that really interesting.
Good.
So are you going to do more painting, or are you going to move more towards sculpture, or is it just going to kind of
It's kind of
continue
just
this
going to
way?
continue both. I think they all feed into each other. Ultimately, sculpture is my end goal. That's
Okay.
kind of, but painting is a great way to mix it up. If I want to, almost thinking of it as kind of a large scale drawing or more texture drawing or something like that. But yeah, they all feed into each other in that way.
Okay. Is there anything else that you want to tell the viewers out there about your artwork, or how about you are going to graduate school?
That's
Can you
right.
talk a little bit about what that school is? Or
Definitely. So I'll be an MFA candidate at the New York Academy of Art for the next 2 years, and that's a figurative graduate school program.
Nice.
And you pick your track. My track will be sculpture, and so you kind of dive into anatomy, you dive into theory, and you just kind of immerse yourself more into your own work through the guidance of obviously wonderful professors. So.
Okay, well, we're really appreciative to have you and your work here, and this show will go on until August 3rd, I believe. And so come down to the Josephy Center and check out the exhibit. Thanks.
All right, thank you.